All right, I think I'm recording. Hi, William. How are you today?
Hi, Christy. Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. It's so good to see you. And just before we get started, just what would you like to? We got a short session, but what would you like to cover today?
So I'd like to cover a component of my 360 feedback that I'd like to explore further. Um, and it is related to, no, I've just lost it. Uh, I had a low rating from supervisor and peers around sharing weaknesses and limitations. One out of five of them, one said rarely, two said sometimes, and only one said often, one said consistently. So clearly, I'm not. There's a perception that I'm not sharing weaknesses and limitations, and I don't. I just want to explore that a little bit. I don't really understand it, but I do want to make sure I'm doing that
Okay,
more.
okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Well, so in the session, you want to explore this. Is that with what would success look like then at the end of the
Okay.
session?
I think it would be some action steps that I can take to to be more aware of sharing my weaknesses and limitations.
Okay. Okay. Well, so going back, when you said you not really sure you understand what that means, tell me a little bit more about that. Um,
Okay. Um, uh, I feel like I don't have enough information around that piece of feedback. It might be related to another piece of feedback, which was also low, related to sort of not a couple of people in the question that go about actively engaging and resolving a conflict. A couple of people said sometimes, and three people said consistently. This is again just my supervisors and peers, and so those two things I rated the lowest on with that group of people,
mhm.
and and I feel like I might be playing it safe with them, and and I don't work there anymore, so who cares? But no, but thinking about going forward, sorry, that was a little bit of passive aggressiveness going on there. But thinking of going forward, there may be other situations where I feel I need to play it safe, and I just want to think about, well, in those situations, how do I show up in a way that does allow me to show my weaknesses and limitations? Um, I wonder, yeah, probably more as a leader than as a coach, because I think as a coach, um, I feel less inclined to play it safe in that way. I might maybe play it safe in other ways. I'm not sure.
Yeah, tell me more about what play it safe means to you.
Hmm.
Maybe start with the work setting.
Yeah. So in a work setting, playing it safe means um, not uh, giving someone here we go. I'm the words are hitting my little like my filter before they come out, and I'm playing it safe essentially in my brain right now, but that's often how I operate. I have like this like holding tank of words that I quickly sort of scrub, and sometimes I'll find synonyms for it, I'll find euphemisms or something before it comes out. Sometimes it gets through that filter before I've had a chance to process it. But that's essentially what playing it safe is. So at work, um, when I'm giving a presentation to a senior executive who's maybe a couple of levels above me, um, I'm very thoughtful about not giving him the impression that I don't know what I'm doing, or that I don't, that I'm incompetent, or that I haven't thought something through, or that and so that's usually what playing it safe means. So with my supervisors and peers, um, sometimes playing it safe means not to make them feel on the defensive in a way, because I don't want to sort of generate any ill feelings with my peers. So for example, when we're discussing ratings of our, collective teams, we have to sort of calibrate how we're rating them for bonuses and so on. And I'm careful not to, even though I may think badly about one of their team members, I'm careful to just approach that very cautiously, because if I'm too direct and too honest, there may be retribution where they are less gracious with maybe one of my team members, and some of that it feels a bit like a negotiation that goes on there. So playing it safe sort of shows up in a few different ways, but that's
so some of it's office politics that
yes.
So when has it been okay for you to just not have the filter like at work, or when have you experienced that, and how was it?
So with my direct reports, I feel a lot easier to, like, I will ask them, tell me about where your anxieties are right now as it relates to what we need to accomplish by the end of the quarter, and we'll talk about that and why they are feeling that way. With my peers and with people who I see as, and maybe that's a little bit one up, one down sort of thing going on there, where I don't feel at all sort of a power differential that's unfavorable to me. Whereas with peers and supervisors, I think I can kind of try to navigate some of that power differential. So I'm trying to think of your question as it relates to the relevant group that we're talking about right now. And I think, towards the end of my time there, it was easier to just be candid and honest about things. That was after the survey was taken, so the survey doesn't reflect any of those sort of, parting discussions that we had, parting conversations that we had, where we suddenly got really real with each other about some stuff. And I think there was this mutual sense of, wow, why, this is really good. Why can't we, what was holding us back from having these conversations before? There was some things said that I think were very meaningful at the time. So,
so in reflecting on when you were more open, because like you said, you're gone, let's like forward thinking, you want to do this better in coaching. When you were able to share, even at the end, like how was that for you?
I think it was fine. It was, there was a little bit of relief in sort of being able to be open and honest and feel seen and heard, I guess. But that wasn't the motivation at the time. It was more about, wow, this person's struggling with this thing, and I can help them sort of realize they're not doing as badly as they think they are. And so, and that felt good to be able to do that, because it seemed to resonate in a way that was, helpful for them.
So you shared something you struggled with and that helped them? Okay. So when you think of it in a coaching setting, can you imagine being more honest like that?
Yeah, in fact, I find it really easy in a coaching setting to do that, because it doesn't feel like there's any sort of political sort of dynamic at play. In a coaching setting, at least in the ones ones that I've had so far.
Mhm.
It's interesting. My manager said he was interested in sort of discussing coaching with me, which was kind of a interesting idea that he wouldn't want coaching from me. But maybe it's easier now that I don't work for him to kind of get some real honest, and I know him better than probably a lot of people at work do. So
Yeah.
in that sense, so maybe this, so that so yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how, because all the coaching I've done so far has had very little sort of baggage associated with the person I'm coaching. I don't know them that well. It's
Right. So we are sort of at a checkpoint. I don't want to get us off topic, but kind of explore this a little bit. What do we need to focus on? We want to get to some action steps for doing this.
Yeah.
What do we need to focus on?
I think just thinking relationally, because that will have a sort of a pervasive kind of application. This whole playing it safe sort of issue.
Mhm.
How do I sort of identify what is holding me back and that's causing me to play it safe, and then break through that to not do that as much as I am doing.
Yeah, what are some things that could help you do that? Because I think you're sort of describing a pattern. So it might not be a light bulb switch or a light switch.
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
What would be some helpful things? Would writing be helpful? Journaling about it, talking more about it?
Yeah, I think I need to sort of identify. I think part of it is I may not be fully aware of when I am playing it safe, and I just need to be more self-aware
Mhm.
of that pattern, of that behavior.
Yeah.
So I think that does require more reflection, is to think about those situations.
Mhm.
I mean, I can think of one right now where I didn't play it safe. So I was at church on Sunday and had a conversation with one pastor who I had an idea, and he kind of shut it down. I just sort of called out the shutting down sort of response.
Mhm.
So that was not playing it safe, because he looked offended at my sort of frankness and directness and
Mhm.
telling him. But we worked it out, and it was good, and that was fine. But then there's another pastor there who's the sort of senior pastor, who I wouldn't feel as free to risk offending as easily,
Mhm.
certainly. And so I'm thinking, uh, there's something there where I'm and I think part of it is just maybe not wanting to make someone not wanting to be the thing that causes someone to feel bad about themselves, maybe,
How
in terms
would
of playing it safe. But that's now we've departed from sharing weaknesses and
Yeah, well,
limitations.
I'm curious about that because I'm curious about that because those seem to be you're speaking almost that they're synonymous. So how like that it's it's is there something, can you sense that something that's holding you back just from it? I mean, yeah, there's something, is there something holding you back? You said the word frank, which would be, could be used for sharing honestly about your weaknesses or their own, something you're responding to. What can you identify anything that's holding you back that
Yeah,
is easy to identify?
yeah. I think I have a tendency to want to control. If I'm I think I do. I mean, I'm pretty sure I have a tendency to want to control how I'm perceived, what my reputation is, because in a political setting, that the capital of that, is so important to preserve and to grow, right? The social capital in a political environment. And I
Right.
feel maybe because I've done that so much in that work setting and culture,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just doing that everywhere because that's just,
Yeah.
what I've trained myself to do. And I'm realizing I don't need to. And um but I treat everyone outside of work, not everyone, but a lot of people I don't know as well,
Mm-hmm.
um, like it's work, like
Mm-hmm.
it's that work setting. So maybe I need to think about differentiating and whether that's relevant and helpful or not. So
Yeah. Yeah. What would it mean to unpack that? I think you're transitioning from I mean, you're in transition, so there's a lot to unpack. That's
mhm.
really, that's a deep, that's a, is it, it, when you transition, you bring yourself with you.
Yes.
I just did that and I
Yes.
definitely brought some of my not great habits with me, and
Mhm.
started applying them.
Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a good point. I appreciated that. Um, yeah, I think that requires more reflection. So maybe, we want we don't, I think before I can get to the action items and the whatever, the to-dos, I, I
Mhm.
I have some reflection to do, and maybe that is my takeaway from this. But you really helped jumpstart that for me. So
Good,
that's probably what I need to do next.
good. It's a lot of honesty there. Yeah. Okay. Well, as we're wrapping this up, is there any thing else you want to talk about or bring up, or do you feel like you have some, at least a direction, maybe some writing or just unpacking?
Yeah, no, this has been helpful. Thank you, Christy. I think I just I need to reflect on what I'm leaving behind and what I want to leave behind in terms of some of the behaviors and the sort of norms of, you know, a different culture, sort of or a different environment.
Hmm.
And and then also um being honest with myself about what's really at stake is, do I really need to protect that social capital as and guard it as,
Mhm.
preciously as I might have done in a work
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. That'll take
All
a minute.
right.
All right. Well, I'm
Okay.
gonna stop the recording. If
Thank you.
figure out how to. There we go. Let's stop it.